to my channel and welcome to today's video. Today's video I'm going to be talking about my predictions for the top 10 in the romance category for the Goodreads Choice Awards, and also the who I think is going to win. So if you didn't see my previous video, I did a reaction video to the initial top 20 books that were selected in the Romance and Romantasy category, and I will leave that link down below if you want to go and check that out. So we have had the first round of voting and we are now on the final round of voting before the winner is going to be announced on the 4th of December. So this first clip is going to be me talking about my predictions for the top 10 and the winner, and my reactions to the top 10 and who I'm going to vote for. And I will also be giving you not only will I be giving you my predictions, I will also be giving you who I would pick as my top 10, like what my top 10 is and who my winner is of out of the 20 that have been selected. So out of the 20 that have been selected in the romance category, I have read at the moment 14 of them. I do plan to have read them all at some point, but so far I've only read 14 of them. So I have read quite enough of, I've read a fair portion of them, so I think I'm in a good position to kind of give a ranking of my top 10. I'll put on screen as a reminder, these are the ones that were in the top 20. Some authors had multiple books in the category, so Ali Hazelwood and Bryn Weaver both had 2 books. I personally feel like it should be restricted to one book per author, just to give it a bit more variety, because Ali Hazelwood has had multiple books published this year, and if authors can have more than one book mentioned, it could be possible in the future that authors that release, say, 4 books a year could have 4 books on the list, and I don't think that's fair. I feel like it should have a bit of variety, but it is what it is. We're going to talk about what I think, or who I think is going to win, and the ranking of the top 10. So I will put on screen the graphic, but these are the books that I think that are going to be in the top 10, and I have ranked them in terms of like top to bottom. So I assume, as many people do, that Emily Henry's Great Big Beautiful Life is the one that's going to win. Do I want this book to win? Not really. I would prefer to see something new. Emily Henry's books are, there's nothing wrong with Emily Henry's books, don't get me wrong, but her books have been the winners for the past 3 or 4 years, and I don't think her books are necessarily fully romance. They do toe the line between women's fiction and romance. They do usually have a romantic subplot, or, romance is a big portion of the book, but I feel like there is a bit more to them than just a romance. There is other things going on, but the way I have calculated this top 10 list for my predictions is based on number of ratings. Emily Henry's book has over 500,000 ratings on Goodreads, and so therefore, based on the popularity of this book, it is most likely that her book will win, because the majority, out of all of the books on the list, hers has been read the most. Whether it's been loved the most is a different thing, but because it's been read the most, if someone who is maybe not a full-time romance reader and just maybe casually reads the genre, if they've only read 1 or 2 books from the selection, they may still vote, and obviously they will vote for what they've read. And because Emily Henry's books, has been read the most, I feel like it's the most likely to win. I mean, I do this in other categories that I've not read as many books from. I just read whatever I vote for whatever I've read, and in some categories that could just be I've only read 1 or 2 books, so my decision is based on, which one did I like the more out of the 2 that I read. So I think that hers has a good chance of winning. I would like to see something else win just for a bit of variety, but I think hers is most likely. And then we have Say You'll Remember Me, which I think it's got like 100,000 ratings less than Emily Henry, but her book toes the line between women's fiction and romance, so again I feel like more people may have picked this one up that don't typically read romance. Now the ratings for Deep End versus Problematic Summer is quite surprising. There's quite a big difference between the two. Now Deep End did come out first, I'm pretty sure, but there is quite a substantial amount in terms of numbers. So that is why Deep End on my predictions is higher. In my personal list, I don't include Deep End because Deep End I thought was okay, but I definitely preferred Problematic Summer. But I imagine both of Ali Hazelwood's books getting through to the next round. One Golden Summer, again, a bit like Emily Henry's book, it borderlines between women's fiction and romance, so it has quite a high number of ratings, again, because I think people will have picked this one up, and I suspect people will have picked this one up for if they were looking for like a beach read over the summer, particularly because of the cover. Problematic Summer Romance, again, I feel like a fairly good position in the middle. Wildside, I think, is a contender to be on the top 10. Obviously, with Wildside and Rewind It Back, they are both, and Scythe and Sparrow, to be fair, they are both, or all three of them, are books that in a series, and not the first book either. So for these ones to make it on the list, the people that are reading them are the people that really love the series and want to continue on. I feel like if people haven't read the previous books in the series, they're less likely to have picked these books up unless they are like fans of the series, because I typically like to read books in order. I don't always, but as a general rule I do like to pick them up in order, and so I feel like the people that vote for this will be fans of the series. First Time Caller I really enjoyed, so I do think that that has a good chance of making it to the top 10. Then we have The Favourites by Lynn Fargo. Now I did include this on my list, or Lane Fargo, sorry. I did include this on the predictions list based again on the numbers. A lot of people have read this one, and I personally wouldn't classify this as a romance, but because it is in the category, I am going to include it in my predictions because a lot of people have read this and a lot of people have, I feel a lot of people have liked it. Again, people that don't typically read romance, I feel, have picked this book up. So I think there's a good chance that that will be in the top 10. Then for my personal top 10, out of the ones that I've read, now as I say, I haven't read them all yet, so this list could change, and I am going to do like a full wrap-up video once I have read all 20, but at the moment as it stands, my top favourite is King of Envy by Anne Huang. Now I'm not sure if this will make it into the top 10 list because her book, this is book 5 in the series, and so I feel like people that will be picking up this book again are fans of the series. Now looking at the ratings, this only, I say only, it's still like a big number, but it has 100,000 and something ratings, which compared to some of the other books like the Abby Jimenez and the Ali Hazelwood one is quite low. Obviously there are ones on the list that have even lower number of ratings, but I feel like there's potential that this wouldn't be in the top 10 because of, as I say, the number of ratings. Till Summer Do Us Part by Megan Quinn. I only recently read this, and same with King of Envy actually, and I really enjoyed it, and I think people may have picked this one up for a summer read, but I feel like people that are going to have been reading this one are fans of Megan Quinn already. I know some of her books don't work for everyone. Now they do have a tendency to be a little bit on the long side, and some people don't like her humour. For me personally, I really like her humour. I think it works well. And so I had a really good time with this one, but I can see some people might not have enjoyed it as much. Beg, Borrow, Steal is one that I read at the beginning of the year, and it's one that I do still think about. I had a really good time reading it, and so I personally really liked it, but I can't imagine it getting it through to the top 10 because I feel like not many people talk about, and it's the third book in a series. Problematic Summer Romance, as I say, I think it should be in the top 10. It's in my top 10. It's my first Ali Hazelwood and only Ali Hazelwood book that I have given 5 stars to, and it's what has made me want to continue reading her books. I did pick up this book thinking, am I going to continue picking up her books, because so far most of them had been like okay reads for me, but this one I did really enjoy, and so I am glad that I picked it up. Then we have Spiral. Now this one was in the top 20 and was a bit of a surprise to me. I read this again towards the beginning of the year, so I'd almost kind of not completely forgot about it, but it had kind of gone to the back of my mind. And then when I saw it on the top 20, I was reminded about how much I really love this one. It is a sports romance and I had a great time with it, so I am glad to see it on the list, particularly as I haven't really heard anyone talk about it, so I'm glad to see it get some recognition, even though I don't think it will make it through to the top 10 just based on the number of ratings that it has. First time caller and the favourites, obviously I've already mentioned. I really enjoyed them. The favourites was a 4.5 read. It wasn't quite a 5-star. The ending was a little bit lacking for me, but I did have a good time with it and I did rate it highly. So that's why I've put it on my list. Love Arranged, again, I don't think based on the ratings this will make it to the top 10, but I did really enjoy this one. It's not my favourite in the series. I did find that this one, I took a little while to get into it, so I gave it 4.5 stars, but I did have a good time with it. Lauren Asher is a bit like Megan Quinn in terms of her books can fall a little bit too long, in my opinion, and could be cut down, but overall I had a good time with it. Wild Side I liked, but I didn't love it as much as previous books in the series. Again, it took me a while to get into this one, and I just wasn't 100% loving this one. This series focuses on single dad romances as the trope, but they are, some of them are single dads like in different ways. They're not necessarily always their biological children, you know, and that was the case in this one. And I don't know, I feel like what I like about a single dad romance is seeing that kind of interaction with the children and the prospective partner, and I feel like in this one the child was definitely used as a almost like prop to further the relationship, because that is why they got together in the first place, and we didn't actually get to see that many scenes with the child, considering the child is a big reason of why these people are together. So for me, it took me a while to get into this one. I did like it, but it's not my favourite, but I did want to include it on my top 10 because compared to some of the other ones I've read, you know, I liked other ones less than this one. And Great Big Beautiful Life, as I say, I would love to see something else win, but that does not mean that I did not enjoy Great Big Beautiful Life. I feel like I'm in the minority because I know a lot of people were disappointed by this one, but I did have a good time with it, and it's not necessarily my favourite Emily Henry, but it is one of the ones I've liked a little bit more. Some of hers I've only given 3 stars to, but I gave this one I think a 4 or maybe even a 4.5. I did have a good time with it, so it is in my top 10, and obviously I think it is going to be in the top 10 as well. Now I'm just going to load up the list for what is in the top 10. I'm just going to have a look at it. I am also going to look at the Romantasy, but I don't really have any strong predictions for that because I haven't read many of the books in the category. I've read some, but not enough to make like a comprehensive list like I have done for this. So let's have a look at the romance first. So looking at the top 10, I see Rewind It Back's made it on, Say You'll Remember Me, First Time Caller, One Golden Summer, Wild Side, Great Big Beautiful Life, The Favourite. So far I've got all of these right. King of Envy. King of Envy has made it through, which is surprising. I wasn't expecting it based on the number of ratings. I think there are books that are rated higher, like in terms of have more ratings, but I am happy to see it. And that, obviously because that is the one that was number 1 on my list, that is the one that I'll be voting for. Scythe and Sparrow and Deep End. So I got most of these right. I think the only difference between my list and in terms of my predictions, my list and the actual top 10 is the problematic summer romance, which I'm surprised that that's not on the list. I would definitely change some of those, obviously, as you saw from my predictions. Some of them on there I would definitely change, like Problematic Summer I think should be on there instead of Deep End because I personally preferred that, but I'm happy with that list. As I say, I feel like the predictions I have in terms of who's going to win remains the same. The order might be a little bit different, but I think there's a good chance that this is going to pan out as I've kind of predicted. So I will be doing a reaction once the winner is announced, so you will see clip later on in the video of my reactions to the winner, and we'll see whether I was right. But I will be voting for King of Envy. And let's just have a quick look at the Romantasy. So I imagine that Alchemized is going to be still on this list, and I have a feeling there's a good chance that Alchemized could win, because I know a lot of people have been raving about that one. I haven't looked at the breakdown of ratings for the Romantasy category, so I'm not 100% sure, but I have a good feeling that that could potentially be a winner, or definitely, if not a winner, like in the higher position. So we have Enchantra, which I am yet to read the first book, so I can't comment on this one. A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, which I did really enjoy, but I feel like it's not, I wouldn't classify it as a Romantasy book. So when it comes to voting, obviously depending what else is on the list, I probably wouldn't vote for that book, purely because I don't think it is a Romantasy book. Alchemized I thought would be on this list. Wild Reverence I haven't read yet. Shield of Sparrows I liked, but I wouldn't say I loved it. Onyx Storm haven't read. Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, I don't think that'll win. I suspect that'll be a lower down, because again, it's third book in the series. Whereas like Onyx Storm, I feel like a lot of people read that series, so that could be higher up the list. Mate by Ali Hazelwood, I think that's got a good chance of doing quite well, because it is obviously well loved, and Ali Hazelwood has had 3 books nominated across different categories. Obviously Problematic Summer's not in the top 10, but she's got 2 books in the top 10. The Knight and the Moth, which I am yet to read, and Accomplice to the Villain. So I'm really sad that, what's it called? On Wings of Blood, the book 1 in the Bloodwing Academy, that didn't make it through. I can't remember what else was on the top 20. I will put a graphic on screen of what is in the top 20 and what I've read. But I'm interested to see what will win. I am not 100% sure what I'm going to vote for. I guess based on rating, my rating would go towards Mate, because I gave that 4.5 stars, and the other 2 books that I've read on this list, Shield of Sparrows and A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, was I gave 4 stars to. So rating wise, my rating would be for Mate, but again, a bit like the Magical Guide to whatever it's called, Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, Mate I feel like doesn't belong on this list. It obviously, in terms of the lists that are available, yes it does, but I would say it's more of a paranormal romance rather than a romantasy. But there isn't a paranormal romance category because they're not as popular. There used to be a paranormal romance category like years ago, but they've got rid of it because paranormal romance is not quite as popular, and obviously it looks like it's getting grouped in with romantasy now. So that is probably what I'm going to vote for the romantasy category. I'm definitely interested to see what will win in this category, and I do plan to read more of the books from this category. I have a whole I do plan to go back and read them all, or at least the first books in the series that I'm not up to date, haven't started. I do want to read the Emily Wilde series, but I need to obviously start with book 1. So I'm interested to see what will win in fantasy, and I will be back once the winners are announced to let you know what my thoughts are. As I say, I think it's going to be the Emily Henry book for romance, and for romantasy I feel like it's going to be Alchemized. They're just my predictions. We'll see if I'm right, and I will be back on the 4th of December once the winners are announced. Let me know in the comments at this point who you think is going to win, and then we'll see if you're right at the end of the video. The winners for the Goodreads Choice Awards have now been announced. It's been, I think, a couple of days since the winner has been announced, but I've not looked at the results because I wanted to do a reaction to them. So I'm going to look mainly at the romance and romantasy categories because they're the 2 that I'm the most interested in, but I will have a quick skim on the other categories as well, see what else has won and maybe what I might like to read going forward into 2026. So I have done obviously my predictions, which you'll have seen in the previous clips, and I'm really interested to see whether my predictions are accurate. I have a feeling that the winners might be, but we'll have a look and see the results. So I'm going to look at shall I look at the romance category first or the romantasy? I'll do the romance category first because that's the one that I've read the most books out of. So I'm going to just have a look at those now. when it loads. So, surprise, surprise, Great Big Beautiful Life is the winner. I'm not really surprised about this. I predicted this as soon as I saw that that was on the list. I knew that this was going to win. I liked this one, as I mentioned in my previous clip, but I am not surprised that this one won. Let's see in terms of the votes. Looks like second place went to Say You'll Remember Me, which there's quite a big gap between Say You'll Remember Me and Great Big Beautiful Life. So you can see that Great Big Beautiful Life is a clear winner. And One Golden Summer didn't have there's not too much of a gap between One Golden Summer and Say You'll Remember Me, so that came in third. I will be putting on screen like my predictions on this side versus what the actual results were, so we can see how close I was, and I'll put a total at the end. Then Deep End was fourth place. The Favourites, I did think The Favourites would be higher up based on the number of ratings, I guess. Rewind It Back, First Time Caller, Scythe and Sparrow, Wild Side, King of Envy, which is my number one, is quite low down the list, but again, I think that is because it's the fifth book in a series. Problematic Summer, I am really surprised about the difference in the number of votes between Deep End and Problematic Summer. Deep End had 86,798 votes. Problematic Summer only had 17,738 votes. So like such a big difference, and I love Problematic Summer so much more. The Gingerbread Bakery has got quite low votes, but again, that is quite a new book, so I'm not too surprised about that. Can't Get Enough, I'm not surprised that it's further down the list. If It Makes You Happy, I really liked that one, but I have now since read it. Since I did my predictions video, I have now read that one. Till Summer Do Us Part, oh, that's so low, 12,000. I really enjoyed that one. Taurus Season, that's quite low, but again, fairly new release. Beg, Borrow or Steal's pretty low, but again, it's third book in the series. Story of My Life, very low down as well. Oh gosh, the lowest, the two lowest books on this list is Spiral and Love Arranged, which I'm not too surprised about because I haven't really heard too many people talk about either of those books. But the comparison between the number of votes for those versus Great Big Beautiful Life is crazy. Great Big Beautiful Life had 117,054 votes, whereas Spiral had 4,803 votes, and Love Arranged, which is the bottom of the list, is 3,026 votes. That is a crazy difference. So yeah, I'm not too surprised by the winners, or the top kind of, I guess the top few. Some of the lower ones is slightly more surprising, particularly Problematic Summer. I am surprised that that is not higher on the list. I would love to have seen Till Summer Do Us Part higher up the list as well, but the really lowest ones, not too surprised about because I haven't really heard anyone talk about them. Beg, Borrow or Steal, I think, is lower down the list because it was a book that came out right at the beginning of the year, so I guess it's not the most fresh in people's minds. And Taurus Season is kind of like the opposite. It's only been newly released, so not many people maybe have got to it yet. Since my predictions video, I have now read that one as well, but I wouldn't have put that in my top 10. So I will be doing a follow-up video probably in the new year at this point, once I've read all 20 books, doing a full summary of which ones I think you can skip over, which ones I think are worth reading, and which ones are like my absolute favourites. So keep an eye out for that because that will be coming in 2026. Now I'm going to look at the Romantasy category, and I was really unsure who was going to win in the Romantasy category because I haven't read like a ton from the list. I've read a few, but not like enough to make a, I guess, like a full decision. But the winner of the Romantasy category is Onyx Storm, and the number of votes between Onyx Storm and Great Big Beautiful Life as a comparison is crazy. Like, the votes for Onyx Storm, there's nearly 300,000 votes for Onyx Storm versus the 117,000 for Great Big Beautiful Life. So that's kind of crazy that there's such a big difference. Romantasy is obviously a popular category. Alchemized came second, and the difference between Onyx Storm and Alchemized, again, is quite crazy. It's quite a big difference. So as I say, Onyx Storm is nearly 300,000. Alchemized is 86,000, which is still a lot, but quite a substantial difference between winner and second place. Then The Knight and the Moth, but that only had, I say only, it's still a substantial amount, but that is 69,786. So quite a big difference between that and Alchemized. Then it drops down even more, and Mate is the 4th place. Shield of Sparrows is 5th place. A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping is in, what are we on, 6th. Accomplice to the Villain, Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. Again, we're going further down the list. The difference between the winner and the further down the list you go is insane. Enchantra, Wild Reverence, Silver Elite. I'm surprised Silver Elite isn't slightly higher on the list. The Songbirds and the Heart of Stone, Direbound, The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy, Bonds of Hercules, which I'm not too surprised about. I didn't like the first book in that series. Rose in Chains, again, I'm slightly surprised that's not a little bit higher, because I know a lot of people were talking about it when it came out. Immortal, On Wings of Blood. On Wings of Blood only got 3,655 votes, and I really like that one. The Wrath of the Fallen, Our Vicious Oath. So the one in last place on this list only had 2,515 votes, which is crazy. It's such a big difference. Yeah, I'm not too surprised by the winner of that list, because Onyx Storm is the 3rd book in a series. It's a really popular series. I am not up to date with it, and I don't know if I am going to go back and reread what's the first book? Iron Flame? I did read it. Is it Iron Flame? No, Iron Flame's book 2. Fourth Wing. Why can I remember that? I read Fourth Wing when it came out, which was, I think, in 2020 or whenever, quite a while ago. I really don't remember anything about it. I liked it at the time, but I don't remember anything about it, so I definitely need to reread it before I moved on, but I don't know if I want to or not. Dragon stuff isn't necessarily my favourite thing to read about. I've read a few dragon books, don't get me wrong, and some of them I have really enjoyed. I liked Fourth Wing at the time, but I feel like I'm not sure if I want to continue on, so I maybe need to go back and reread it to kind of decide, but we'll see. Now I'm just going to have a look at some of the other categories as well, just to kind of see who the winners are. I'm not going to go through the whole list, because I'll be honest, on some of the other categories I'd only read like a couple. But for fiction, the winner was My Friends by Frederick Backman. I haven't read any Frederick Backman books, but I've heard good things about them, but I'm not sure if they're really my sort of book, so it's not something that I'm like dying to pick up. Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid won the historical fiction category, which I'm happy about. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I haven't got to this one yet, and I do desperately want to read it, but yeah, I just haven't had time this year to get to it, but I will definitely be making it a priority in 2026. Mystery and thriller, let's see, Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson won the mystery and thriller category. And the difference between the votes for like the winners in this one had 77,000, which is crazy when you compare it to the romance and romantasy category. Like, it's so much less. But yeah, I haven't read that one, but it is on my TBR. Fantasy. Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil one. That is who I voted for. I didn't obviously talk about who I voted for in other categories, because as I say, some of them I hadn't really read many. I'm surprised at that one won. I've heard a few people talk about it, but I didn't know it was that popular. That had 102,408 votes, which is quite a lot. I had a great time with that book, and I'm really glad that that one won. And that is who I voted for in this category, and it's a really good vampire story. If you like vampire books, I would definitely recommend that one. Science fiction, I'm gonna guess that I've not heard of the book on that list. The Compound by Aisling Rowell. I don't think I voted for anyone in this category because I've not read any of them, but that's who won. But again, the difference in votes, that one had 45,287. So you can see science fiction, not so much a popular genre. Horror, let's see. Witchcraft for Wayward Girls won, and that is who I voted for. I hadn't read too many of the books in the horror category. I think I'd read 3, although I have a couple on my TBR, and that was who I voted for. But I didn't necessarily love it, but it was just the one that I liked the most out of the ones that were on the list. But yeah, interesting to see that that one won. Debut novel, Alchemized won debut novel. I actually hadn't read any of the books on the debut novel list because I went through them, because usually I've read like 1 or 2, because debut novel is like a mixture of different genres. Obviously it's just that they are debut books, and usually I've read like 1 or 2 on that list, but this year I'd not read any of them. But I'm not surprised that Alchemized won something, because I did think that it was a very popular book. Audiobook, let's see. Onyx Storm won the best audiobook, which is interesting. It's interesting because Onyx Storm won best audiobook and obviously best romantasy. Atmosphere won best historical fiction and is in second place. Great Big Beautiful Life, which won the romance, is actually book 4 in the audiobook category. My Friends is book 5. So it's interesting to see that some of the books on this list were in other categories, but again, the difference in votes is kind of crazy. Onyx Storm had 107,386 ratings, or votes I should say, compared to Atmosphere, which is second place, that had 73,916 ratings. So such a big difference between the top and second place again. I guess I don't know how people vote on this category. I personally didn't vote for anything in this category because although I had read some of the books on this list and enjoyed them, I didn't actually listen to any of them as audiobooks that are on this list. So I don't know if people vote based on if they listen to the audiobook or if they just like the book. So say for example, if they read Onyx Storm and liked Onyx Storm and saw it on the list, they might have voted for it, but they might not necessarily have consumed the audiobook. I don't know how people vote on that if they haven't read the audiobook, because they might just pick their favourite book. So that's interesting to see. So maybe I do need to check out the audiobook for that. Young adult fantasy and sci-fi. I don't think I'd read any of the books on this list. Oh no, I had read a couple, I think. The winner was Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, which is obviously the latest Hunger Games prequel type book. I haven't read this. I don't know if I'm going to read it. I have read the obviously original Hunger Games trilogy, and I did read the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but I don't know if I'm going to read that or not. I need to have a think about it. If I do read it, it'll probably be an audiobook that I pick up. I liked the Hunger Games at the time when I read it, but I'm not like massively obsessed with the series, so I don't know what I'm going to do if I pick that up, but that's interesting to see. Young adult fiction, I don't think I'd read any of the books on this list, and the winner was Fake Skating by Lynn Painter. I do have this one on my TBR, so it's interesting to see that it's won. Maybe that'll make me pick it up sooner. Probably not, because I've got a lot of other things on my TBR that are like a higher priority, but that is interesting to see. Non-fiction, I don't think I had read anything on here. I'm not a huge non-fiction fan, but the non-fiction winner is a John Green book, Everything is Tuberculosis, very difficult word to say, The History and Persistence of Our Deadliest Infection. I won't be picking this up. I'm not the biggest John Green fan. I did like some of his books back in the day, but I also really hated some of his books back in the day, so he's not really an author that I would go out of my way to pick up, if I'm being honest. Memoir, let's see who won that. That was The House of My Mother, A Daughter's Quest for Freedom by Shari Frank. Now, I was interested in this book because I saw a lot of people talking about it on TikTok, so I'm not sure if I will ever get to this one or not. I don't read a ton of memoirs. I usually only pick them up as an audiobook if they're from my library. That's kind of the truth of it. And I don't know if my library will get a copy of this. I don't know how popular this book is over here in the UK. I know it's very popular in the US. I saw a lot of people that I saw on TikTok talking about it were US creators, but I'm not sure how popular it is over here in the UK, because obviously it's an American family that it's about. So if I see this at the library, I might pick it up, but I'm not going to go out of my way to check it out. And then the last category is history and biography, and I can tell you I will not be reading this book probably, and I hadn't read anything on this list, but the winner of this one was How to Kill a Witch, the Patriarchy's Guide to Silencing Women, which does sound interesting, but as I say, I don't read non-fiction very much. I tried to at the beginning of the year say I was going to read a non-fiction book of the month, and that quickly went downhill from kind of like March onwards. I didn't really stick to that, but I really come to the conclusion that there is no point forcing myself to read a book that I'm not interested in. Like occasionally I'll pick up a non-fiction book if I have an interest in it, but I do prefer to read fiction, and that is what I'm going to focus on in 2026. So they are all of the winners of the Goodreads Choice Awards. The two categories that I was the most interested in, I can't say I'm too surprised by the winners. I would love to see a non-Emily Henry book win next year. I don't know if she's got a 2026 release coming out. Maybe she just needs to have a year off to give someone else a chance. I don't know. But yeah, 2026, I would love to see someone else win from the romance category, because Emily Henry's books have won for the past like 4 or 5 years, and I just want to see someone else win. There are other books that I think are, like, I'm not saying Emily Henry's books are bad by no means, but I do think there are better ones out there, particularly like when we're looking at romance. Her books do kind of lean a bit towards women's fiction. There is a romance in them usually, but they do lean towards more women's fiction. So I'd love to see something that's a true romance win next year. Obviously, we always want to see a more diverse list, not just in terms of diverse authors, but also content. There wasn't even any kind of LGBT book on this list, or at least from the ones I read, none of them were. I don't know about the ones that I haven't got to, but I would love to see that next year. And for the romantasy category, I would love to kind of, it would be really good if they split out paranormal romance to romantasy, but I don't think that's likely to happen, because we do get quite a few paranormal, but not like really popular ones, if that makes sense. But yeah, I would love to see, and for the romantasy, I'd like to see more first books in the series rather than book like 100 in a series that you know, only the true fans are going to kind of read, because I often use the Goodreads list to kind of find new books, find new authors, and if it's a third book in a series like Onyx Storm, I'm not going to pick that up just because it's won the Goodreads Choice Awards. But if something like the first book in a series won, I'd be more likely to pick the first book in a series rather than the third book of a series that I haven't continued on with, if that makes sense. So there's some of the things that I'd like to see from 2026. Let me know what you thought of this year's winners and nominations. Did who you want to win, and who would you have picked to win in the romance and romantasy category? And let me know what you think of the Goodreads Choice Awards as a whole. I know people have very mixed views on them. There are obviously some cons to the list, of course, but I just like it. It's a bit of fun every year. It's something that I have been looking at, although I haven't like documented it every year, but it is something that I've always, ever since I've had Goodreads really, which I've had since the end of 2014, I've always looked at the list. I've always participated in voting, and I always find it a bit of fun each year to kind of like see who's going to be on the list, who's going to win. Obviously in more recent years it's been a bit more easy to predict, but yeah, I have a good time looking at it, and I definitely hope that they continue with the Choice Awards in the future, although I would like to see some changes made. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one.